I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm willing to work as hard as I can.
There is no past, there's no future, there's just this moment right here.
If I did that, if I can get through that, like, come at me.
Changing how I saw myself, like as a man, not just as an athlete.
It's okay that I struggle. It's okay. That's part of the deal. It's how I respond to it.
This is the Limitless Athlete podcast. My name is Tom Foxley, founder of Mindset Rx and your host. And today I'm going to be giving you a mindset strategy for Olympic lifting. So picture this, and this might be a scene that you know already all too well. You are on the way to the barbell for a heavy 1 rep max. The eyes are on you. And before you even get to the bar, you're feeling self-doubt. You're feeling kind of nervous, anxious, not strong. You probably visualized yourself missing the lift, and all you want is to just succeed, to kind of hit those numbers that you know you're capable of when the eyes are off you and the attention isn't on you. But frankly, you know you've already missed the lift. What happens is inevitably you miss that lift. Like sometimes you surprise yourself, but it's a surprise. You don't have that kind of nailed down positivity and self-belief of like, you know what, I've got this. So what happens is this story that I'll always suck at heavy lifts gets further and further embedded. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of seeing athletes in this mindset mess. So today I'm going to show you a 4-part mindset strategy that you can implement immediately for Olympic lifts. It's simple, it's effective, and you can begin to implement it straight away. It's the same process that I've used personally working with 1,000 or more athletes, and frankly, it works. So the first thing, to lift as heavy as possible, you must bite. So let me explain. BITE is a routine. BITE is our acronym. It stands for breathe, imagine, technical, and emotional. And a routine is essential for heavy lifts because a routine creates consistency. It creates less of the unknown. A great athlete requires the ability to go deep into the unknown, but only in certain areas. You've got to create as much known as possible. You've got to create as much predictability as possible for your reps. So you've got to minimize the unknown. And by having routine, that takes you through a consistent process that allows you to perform at your best. So bite. First step is breathe. Quite often you'll want to up-regulate your state in this, in lifting. And what mindset does and what breath work does is it allows you to up-regulate your state and go into that with a bit more intensity, a bit more aggression. So you're basically thinking about breathing through your mouth. You're thinking about how can I increase my rate of breathing and how can I kind of get as much air in and out of my lungs as possible in a short amount of time. So that would look like short, sharp, aggressive breathing through your mouth, almost like a grunt or a growl. That's going to really help you, and that's going to upregulate your state. Then the next step of your pre-lift routine is to imagine the outcome. Imagine a successful lift, and there's more detail on this later. Then give yourself a technical cue. If you're working on your cleans and you're struggling to get your elbows under, give yourself a technical, get your elbows under the bar and up. Give yourself a technical cue, something like quick elbows, something you can remember, and then give yourself an emotional cue. And that emotional cue is your primer for your mindset to switch on and give yourself that mental state that you need. So that could be something like aggression. And if you've been following us for a while, this is your opportunity to change and train your character skill. The next step is to realize that too much pressure is killing your performance. And pressure comes from this internal story, this subconscious story that you believe is true, that is absolutely not true. Or maybe there's a true element to it, but it's not entirely true. You need to drop the story that limits you, that tells you you're not going to be good enough, that you don't fit in, that you don't belong, that you're never going to be athletic, that you're never going to be strong, and drop that and get free from it. And what that's going to do is it's allowing you to progress and act without that pressure. Like some people will tell me that they'll try and consciously talk over the self to, or like it's consciously talk over the negative voice in their mind. And this is only going to work in a small scenario. This is going to work in a tiny amount of times, because the subconscious narrative is so much more powerful and dominant than the conscious story you're trying to tell yourself. It's like the conscious story is like the waves on top of the sea, whereas the subconscious are the currents beneath that are really creating the movement. We've got to address those subconscious currents first. And the way you do that is you go through a 4-part acronym. You TAPP, TAPP. You test and you find what that story is. You aim up, you create a story of success and a vision of success that you truly want to live out that is authentic and meaningful to you. Then you train presence, so you get your focus and your presence of the present moment. And then finally, you do things, you prove, that's the final P, prove, that get you to move forwards and disprove the old story and prove the new story to be correct. So you drop your pressure, create a pre-lift routine. The next thing is you embrace the ugly reps. And if you want to get better at Olympic lifting, you must perform ugly reps. Technique is important, of course, but growing and improving your technique and becoming stronger is a messy progress where you need to be encountering ugly reps. You need to be encountering difficulty. You need to be encountering challenge to force you to grow. If you're avoiding that, it's essentially a form of perfectionism where you're avoiding failure, where you're trying to do anything but give yourself the opportunity to fail. But it's in encountering failure that you can progress the quickest. You've got to flirt with failure to grow. So go towards areas that you can fail in. Like, try and embrace those ugly and messy reps. So ugly reps is the first piece. Dropping the pressure and then creating your pre-lift routine. And then finally, you've got to learn what CrossFitters and powerlifters and Olympic lifters can learn from golfers and tennis players. There was this study, and it was done years ago, but it's such an insightful study. And basically, they had a group of people shoot 3-pointers on a basketball court. They measured how good they were and then sent them away. And they split that group into 3 sets of participants. The first group, Group A, were allowed to practice for 10 minutes a day their 3-pointers technique. The second group, they were only allowed to visualize. So Group B and Group C were allowed to do nothing. They were the control group. So the interesting thing, and I don't know the exact percentages, I think something like 23 or 24% improvement. That's what the practicing group got. The second group, those athletes who visualized, they got to basically the same level. They got 1 percentage point lower improvement just from 10 minutes of visualization. And visualization is a key part in sports like golf. It's a key part in sports like tennis, but it's not used enough in CrossFit specifically, but also Olympic weightlifting. And what visualization does is it allows you to rehearse success and encounter failure in your technique and everything that goes along with that, and also overcome difficulty without actually going through the physical stress of doing that. So you can overcome challenges, you can improve your technique, and you can grow as an athlete, improve your skill set. And more to this point, you can become a better Olympic you can become a better Olympic lifter through visualization alone. This is enough to help you grow. And what you want to do is create this full body sensory experience. So you want to feel your hands on the knurling of the bar. You want to feel your hook grip. You want to feel that big drive with your legs. And you don't want to shy away from difficulty. You want to go fully into it and embrace the suck, because the rep is going to be heavy. The rep is going to feel awful if you're doing it properly. But you want to feel yourself and visualize yourself overcoming it in as much detail as possible, because the detail carries here. And lots of people struggle with this, saying, oh, I end up imagining myself missing lifts. And if this is the case, you've got to realize that you're actually very good at visualization. You're just visualizing the wrong things. So you've got to put the reps in, and you've got to start working on that story and changing your expectations of that lift. And visualization, it doesn't happen like the book The Secret. You're not manifesting success. Manifestation is not the thing that athletes need. They need to put the work in, and visualization is a way of putting the work in. So there you go. You've got 4 steps to becoming a better Olympic lifter and maxing out on those heavy lifts. Visualization, embracing the ugly reps, bite your pre-lift routine, and dropping the pressure. If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to subscribe, share it. Hopefully you've got a lot of benefit from this. So there's other people, friends that will get some benefit from it too. And if you are wanting to go into a little bit more depth, we also have the blog available too, which is kind of a written, concise version of this, which might help kind of hit the brain areas in a different way. So head to mindsetrxd.com/blog. So mindsetrxd.com/blog. And there'll be a written version there. And there's also a bunch of other resources for you too. So enjoy the podcast, and I'll speak to you next week on the Limitless Athlete podcast.